What's up, OG Fortniters? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm on UFC 5 for the first time, and we are going to see what would happen if the UFC had a pound-for-pound tournament. Of course, that's the men's division only. The game still isn't that realistic. Here is the pound-for-pound rankings in bracket format. They only rank 15 fighters, so Jon Jones will receive a first-round bye and will take on the winner of our first fight between Pantoja and Adesanya. Every fight will be controlled by the AI fighters on legendary difficulty. I will use the heaviest build they have for each fighter included in the game, and every fight will be 3 rounds except for the final fight, which will be 5. Again, I've got to make these fights happen because Dana does not have the balls to do it. Izzy has almost a whole foot advantage in height and reach. Pantoja is the lightest fighter in the tournament, so God bless him, but hey, maybe he can make this a scrappy ground fight and pull off the upset. All right, time to get this David versus Goliath story started, or more like Jose versus Deshaun. And Pantoja almost gets knocked out with the very first punch that lands. But the man is still standing. Let's see some Pantoja offense. Never mind, he'll just eat a couple punches, go unconscious for a few seconds. But oh boy, it might have all been a trick to get this fight to the mat, and Pantoja has full mount. He quickly goes for the armbar. He smacks him in the face, but Izzy is 50 pounds heavier, so he'll just casually take the dominant position. We're back to the feet, and Pantoja is willing to stand and bang, but at this point he has nothing to lose. The best Pantoja can do is pull guard, and by that I mean getting nearly knocked out with a spinning kick and Izzy attempting to end the fight. We're coming up on a possible 10-8 round, but Pantoja still has a Brazilian's chance, and he even cuts Izzy before the end of the first round. We get to round 2, and Pantoja is still swinging, but for every punch he lands, it costs him months of his life in return. Coming up on the midway point of the fight, and Pantoja cuts him again. He sends a vicious spinning elbow that is barely off the target, and now he might be watching this fight take place from an ascending bird's eye view. No surprise here, Izzy will be advancing to the next round to face Jon Jones. And for the next fight, we have Charles Oliveira facing Max Holloway. Both fighters will be fighting at 155 pounds. This fight has taken place before, but 100 seconds into it, Charles tore his esophagus. But I'm sure Max is planning to make it much more difficult for him to consume food after this one. He shows signs of dominance early in the fight on the feet, but Max then tries some gymnastics in the middle of the fight, but all that does is allow Charles to bring this fight to the mat. Charles has some fun punching him in the face repeatedly, but what's more fun than that? Heel hooks. This heel hook appears to be choking Max out somehow. He comes close to tapping out, but he gets out of it. Charles then sets up a beautiful arm triangle. Max's purple bar is already low, which I think means he's about to tap. But Charles willingly backs out of it. He does some damage, but ultimately he might have just sold an easy victory. We make it to a second round, and Charles is testing his luck on the feet, and he stuns Max with a head kick. How am I supposed to figure out if the ground game is overpowered on this difficulty if a jiu-jitsu guy is coming out here fighting like a kickboxer? Meanwhile, Charles catches him with a hook and is button smashing. Charles drops Max and connects an uppercut on his forehead on the way down, and that'll do it. Max finally gets TKO'd for the first time in his career, but of course by a submission specialist. And fighting Oliveira in the next round will be either Leon Edwards or Kamaru Usman. We've all seen this fight before, and we all know at this point Leon Edwards is the better fighter, but this is UFC 5 we're talking about. EA Sports, it's in the game. Kamaru Usman went out there and dominated Leon for 15 minutes straight. He took him down a lot. He laid on him while punching him. They get to their feet and Kamaru still bullies him. And after having 9 minutes of ground control time, Kamaru will easily move on with a 30-27 decision. And he'll be facing Oliveira in the second round, which surely will provide some hot man-on-man spooning. On the other side of the bracket, we have Alexander 10 Days Notice Volkanovski taking on Yuri Prochazka. There's a couple physical advantages in this one, but Volk is determined to be a 2-division champ by any means necessary. Volk comes out looking like a sniper, connecting on several punches but not doing any damage. On the other hand, Yuri is looking more like Yurihan Prochazka because he is not hesitating to send bombs on his much smaller caged-in opponent. We're halfway through the first round and things are not looking good for Volk. He's bleeding, he has brain damage, and still hasn't damaged Yuri. These fighters are a combined 0 and 50 with these spinning elbows, but Yuri finally connects on one and stuns Volk again because why not? Volk is still landing his shots on Yuri, but he leans into the head kick and he is out of here. Technically, that's the biggest upset yet since Volk is 11 ranks higher than him, but the 50-pound weight difference might have affected the outcome of this fight. Next up, we have another real-life rematch between number 6 Sean O'Malley and number 11 Aljamain Sterling. The winner fights Yuri, but honestly, both of these guys are looking like losers because they'll be 70 pounds underweight in that fight. On top of that, Sean has the eyes of Voldemort, Aljamain has a Lego head, and his chest looks like he was run over repeatedly by a tractor. They come out hot in this one, exchanging punches. Aljamain connects on a wide open spinning kick, but Sean doesn't seem bothered by it. What Sean does seem bothered by is the fact that Aljamain stuck his hand through his neck, so after that violation, he landed the first takedown of the fight. A few minutes later, Aljamain is going for the UFC classic heel hook, which was all just a setup for the mount. Sean appears to have been taking Derek Lewis jiu-jitsu classes because before the round ends, he just decides to stand up. There's not much to judge this round off of other than the few takedowns, so Aljamain tries to secure the 10-9 with a takedown, but Sean defends it perfectly with an uppercut. Round 2 is underway. Aljamain still wants his fight on the ground, but Sean seems to have figured him out. He breaks out of the clinch with a nice uppercut and damaging spinning kick. He follows that up with a head kick that drops Aljamain. And would you look at that, EA still hasn't figured out how to get rid of the jerking off knockdown animation. Sean tries to finish him on the ground, but he just ends up doing Aljamain a favor. With 90 seconds left in the round, Aljamain goes for the Kimura, but once again, Sean doesn't think jiu-jitsu is real and just throws him off of him, and they go to a third and final round. Aljamain starts off round 3 with a takedown attempt, but Sean responds by stuffing his face into the mat, and then he follows that up with a stunning combination. With 3 minutes left, Sean mistimes the uppercut takedown defense, and now Aljamain has plenty of time to steal the fight. And at the 2-minute mark, he times the submission perfectly. He goes for an armbar on an exhausted Sean O'Malley. He breaks his grip, tries to break his arm. Sean's face is pinker than his hair. He almost taps, but he mans up at the last second. Who needs a functioning arm in MMA anyway? These two go the distance, and Sean O'Malley will win this one by unanimous decision and will have to face Yuri Prohaska in the next round. And up next, we have yet another rematch between number 7 Sean Strickland and number 10 Alex Pereira. Sean has to fight Alex this time at a 20-pound disadvantage, but even when the weight was even, it did not work out too well for him last time. Sean comes out just gambling with his life, standing in the pocket with Alex, although he drops him to the mat with an elbow to the face. He throws a few punches at the air above Alex, but honestly, I like that strategy for him a lot more than him going to the mat. Alex is swinging for the fences on his stationary target of an opponent, and unsurprisingly, one of those connects and stuns Sean. Round 1 looks like it's going to go to Alex, but to be fair, Sean did some damage to Alex's face with his 2-punch arsenal. In round 2, Sean turned into prime Anderson Silva and started to dodge everything Alex threw at him. Then I guess he has better hand speed than Alex because he kept beating him to the punch and opened up a cut on Alex's face around the 3-minute mark. Alex then connects on back-to-back overhand punches, and one more could have Sean out of here. Sean doesn't seem concerned though, because he leaves himself wide open with his missed high kick. He then throws the weakest spinning back fist I have ever seen in the game so far, but it connects and stuns Alex. He even hesitated on that strike, but God bless the USA, we will take it. Alex then takes a momentum back and has Sean's leg health flashing, which leads to a 200 IQ move by Sean. He takes down the Brazilian. If the cut, the stunning back fist, and the takedown weren't enough to win Sean round 2, his ground game strike surely made it enough. And I didn't think Alex was that badly hurt, but good God, is he not looking too pretty. And UFC 5 really said, we're gonna add thousands of cut possibilities in this game, but not a cut man. Give this guy an Asian with a nice pack and he'll be fine. Just about as soon as round 3 gets started, both fighters open cuts on each other's faces again, but Sean's is above the eye and that could take him out of this fight. Never mind, it probably won't be that because Sean forgot how to defend a leg kick and Alex lands 3 of them in a row, which drops Sean to the mat. Alex could win the round off that and some ground control, but Sean is a black belt. He easily takes the top position and he is back in this fight. He gives him a few good strikes on the ground, but Sean wants to beat this man on the feet. Sean still doesn't seem interested in defending the leg kick, so that could have him out of here soon, but who needs defense when you have swing first, ask questions later offense? He stuns Alex again in the last minute. He still can't protect his leg, but I guess he thought he was better off staying in Alex's face and not giving him the chance to kick him again. And that'll make this fight go the distance. Sean Strickland has done it. He won rounds 2 and 3, making him the first fighter to defeat an opponent in a higher weight class. And in the last fight of the the first round, we have number 2 Islam Makhachev facing number 15 Jamal Hill. Jamal has every physical advantage in this one. He's 6 inches taller, has a 50-pound weight advantage, he's black, and he has a 9-inch reach advantage. I was expecting 15 minutes of ground game from Islam, but this man came out big dick in it. He stood toe-to-toe with Jamal and got the best of him on the feet before, of course, taking it to the ground. Jamal thought he could stand up with his back on the fence, but Islam just threw him right back to the mat and proceeded to manhandle him. Jamal was eventually able to get up with a little more than a minute left in the round and was ready to win back this round, but Islam once again is a better stand-up striker than the former 205 champ. In round 2, Islam took him down a minute into the round and never let him back up, so now Islam is clearly up 2 rounds. We enter round 3 and these two get straight to work, but Jamal finally stands up for himself and murders Islam Makhachev. This fight probably should have ended there, but Jamal wants no part of his ground game and lets himself revive. Jamal would like to keep swinging at his temple, but Islam is a sneaky man. He pulls guard into a triangle. That doesn't go through, but Islam keeps this fight on the ground for the rest of the fight, and he goes on to pull off the biggest weight upset so far and beats Jamal Hill by unanimous decision. We are in round 2, and up first we have what most likely would be the final fight if it weren't for Don Fry 2.0. Jon Jones still has the weight and reach advantage versus Izzy, but only by 4 inches, and depending on who you ask, that's enough to get the job done. These two freaks of nature come out testing each other's reach. Jon Jones lands the first big strike of the fight with his jumping head kick. He then goes for the takedown but changes his mind halfway through it and ends up getting stunned on the feet. Izzy didn't even defend it. I guess the game just decided Jon Jones doesn't get to win round 1. With that being said, Jon still gets a takedown in the first round, goes for a submission, but Izzy defends it, gets on top, and gets up. And who cares about reach when you're standing toe-to-toe? Izzy drops Jon Jones again and has dominated the first 5 minutes. Round 2 is underway and Jon Jones is just looking slow. Where are his steroids when he needs them? He gets cut, doesn't come close to landing a meaningful strike on Izzy, and is just wide open to the stunning front kick. Surely they gave the GOAT some head movement in the clutch. Nope, he just gets dropped and his head moves face first into the mat. But Jon Jones is still in this fight, and in the last minute of round 2, he turns into Chandler Jones and tackles Izzy to the mat. He sets up the Darce choke with time expiring. Izzy is fatigued, his purple bar drops, he almost taps, but he gets out of it, and we make it to round 3. Round 3 begins, and Johnny immediately connects with a straight, but Izzy just casually absorbs that. They clash, and once again, Izzy has Jon stunned. Izzy is now just throwing tissues at Jon, and he keeps dropping him. Jon can't score a takedown, he can't eat a punch, and it seems like the knockout is around the corner. He finally stuns Izzy with the left 13 minutes into the fight, but it's too little and too late. Izzy just dominated Jon Jones for almost the entire fight and wins unanimously 30-27 while 50 pounds lighter. That fight would be a dream matchup of mine, but this next fight, not so much. We've got Charles Oliveira taking on Kamaru Usman. This fight belongs on the wrong side of the hub, but here we go. Kamaru gets a takedown. Charles grabs his ankle. They get stood up. Kamaru gets another takedown. Little to nothing happens. They get stood up, and that's round 1. Round 2. Let's get going. Come on, boys. We're getting some nice stand-up action, and Kamaru gets a takedown. Charles goes for a heel hook, and they get stood up for a 3rd time. All right, round 3, we've got some takedowns, some unsuccessful submission attempts. Charles actually hits Kamaru at one point, which was pretty cool. And no surprise, we go to a decision. The victory goes to Charles Oliveira. I know he won round 3 from those ground punches. I honestly don't remember what else he did to win this fight, but yep, that's the result, and we're moving on. So Izzy and Charles will meet up in the semifinals on top of the bracket, and up next we have Yuri versus O'Malley. Pound for pound, O'Malley might be the best striker in the organization, but Yuri has 70 pounds to spare and an extra 8 inches in reach. 10 seconds into the fight and Sean takes a big kick to the face, and that's not an ideal start for him. He responds with a perfect kick to the face of Yuri, but it does almost no damage to his health. That felt like every superhero movie ever where the protagonist meets the bad guy for the first time and realizes he can't hurt him in their first fight, except this time Sean won't survive to fight another day.
Absolutely going at it. Let's see. He does a great
So Yuri is going to easily move on to the semifinals and is the heaviest man still alive on the bracket. Up next is probably the last semi-fair fight left. We have two complete opposites in number 7, Sean Strickland, and number 2, Islam Makhachev. Once again, Islam starts the fight off by trying to prove himself on the feet, but Sean Strickland is not a sane person. He is not worried about the punches coming at him nor the possibility of a takedown. He walks Islam down, lands a series of punches that drops Islam, and then he accepts the fight on the mat. That almost immediately got him choked out, but he gets side control, ends up taking Islam's back, and he gives him a taste of his own medicine before standing up again. He now has the Dagestani second guessing his takedowns, and Sean opens up a cut under Islam's left eye. Islam goes for a takedown again, but whoever thought just standing there would be the ideal defense against that? Apparently Sean did. He then dropped him 2 more times in the first round with his uppercuts, accepted the fight on the ground for the last minute, and came out of the first 5 minutes unharmed. Round 2 is underway and Sean still can't do anything wrong. He drops Islam with a hook, throws him back on the mat where he belongs, and continues to dominate the fight. He was even kind enough to keep giving Islam a shot on the mat, but Islam seems to have finally met his match down there, and before round 2 ends, Sean knocks Islam out, and somehow he has made his way into the semifinals. The first semifinal fight is between number 8 Israel Adesanya and number 5 Charles Oliveira. Izzy has every physical advantage coming into this, but especially at 200 pounds. So realistically, Charles's only chance is to win by submission, but for some reason, Charles doesn't seem very interested in taking down Izzy. So he goes on to stand and bang with Izzy, which ends up in him receiving a nasty cut above the eye and his brain jiggling around inside his skull. He was able to do some damage in the clinch, but thankfully for him, Izzy had the bright idea of going for a guillotine, which of course did not go through, and Charles was finally able to land some punches. Round 2 starts and Charles goes for a takedown, but Izzy has some cheat code built into him because just like against Jon Jones, Charles backs out of it midway through it and ends up getting stunned on the feet. These guys are fighting in Madison Square Garden, but if you ask Charles where he was, he'd probably say he's at a desert too. I don't know how he survived that, but just like Michael Scott, somehow he manages and ends up scoring his first takedown of the fight. And he took all that damage and did all that work just to go for a goddamn heel hook, which has never worked for him in this game. They get back to their feet and all of a sudden Charles is knocking Izzy's head around like a speed bag and he's chasing a finish, but a few seconds later he gets stunned again. Charles must have paused and took a look at the controls because out of nowhere he starts spamming flying knees. He can't get them high enough to actually reach his face, so that doesn't work, but the takedown does. If only he would do that more often and maybe, just maybe, try something else other than a heel hook. Round 3 is underway and Charles comes out kicking for the fences and caught Izzy with one of them. Izzy finally defends one of his takedowns and then follows that up with the perfect sequence, including a cut, a stun, and a knockdown. Izzy is stunning Charles with every strike that connects, and once again it looks like the knockout is coming up, but Charles still has some defense left in him. He flicks a right joystick a few times and out of nowhere Charles flash KOs Adesanya. His head health barely diminished in this fight, but he just blew through his stamina and Charles just connected with the perfect punch. Charles was down 2, almost 3 rounds. He completely stole that victory, but he is moving on to the pound for pound championship at just 155 pounds. And up next, we have 2 of the baddest white men on the planet, number 14, Yuri Prochazka versus number 7, Sean Strickland. Once again, Sean has every physical disadvantage, but apparently he has the highest punching damage in the game, so he should be fine. What I assumed would be a slugfest started off as 2 manly men blowing their loads all over each other with not much to show for it. The most eventful thing of the first round was Sean sneaking in a takedown in the final seconds, but Yuri taking the top position and landing some damage. Now that we've gotten through that awkward feeling out process, these two actually started to fight each other in the second round, with Sean landing a stunning shot 10 seconds into the round. He then just kept it slow and steady and of course only swinging at his face, but near the end of the second he stunned Yuri again and has opened up a nasty cut above his eyes. Yuri tries getting fancy with his kicks, but Sean is just standing there ready to counter punch and it is working like a charm for him. He stuns Yuri twice with the hands, and when he least expected it, he dropped him with the head kick. Sean tries to finish him off on the mat, but Yuri is able to give him a big warm hug and make it to round 3. In round 3, Yuri seems to have taken Sean's style between the rounds and it starts off working pretty well for him. This started to look like an intense sparring session between these two, and that is pretty much a Sean Strickland wet dream. Yuri is landing, but so is Sean, and it's turning out to be a good thing that his father taught him how to take a punch. So he brushes those off and drops Yuri with the right overhand. Yuri tries to return the favor, but Sean answers back with a left hook that sends him jerking off to the mat. And Sean follows him down for the finish, and he gets it. He has now defeated 2 light heavyweights and the best ground game fighter in the business, and is moving on to the finals to face Charles Oliveira. These have to be 2 of the least likely fighters I thought would make it to this point, but apparently these guys are the best fighters in the world according to EA. Sean has a 30-pound weight advantage, but honestly not that much of a length advantage. Sean wants to stand and bang, but needs to watch out for Charles's uppercut from hell, and of course his barrage of heel hooks that'll be coming his way. Both of these guys start off defending each other's strengths pretty well to start off the fight, but Charles's face has been nerfed in real life and in the game. His face opens up before the 2-minute mark, and this is a 5-round fight, so that could very well cost him the championship. Charles lands his uppercut that dropped a 200-pound man, but Sean just likes that, and it leads to Sean stunning Charles with a hook. Sean then stuns Charles again with a glitchy overhand right, and this might be a quick one at this rate. But Charles grabs Sean's back and won't let it go. We get some of the gayest 30 seconds of UFC history, which I guess just gives Charles an opportunity to recover before failing to toss him. But with a minute left to go in the round, Charles sneaks in a high kick that stuns Sean, and he is alive and well in this fight heading into round 2. 30 seconds into round 2, Charles easily lands a takedown, and things are really looking up for him. Except clearly Sean is a high-level black belt himself. He just stands up. Charles goes for another takedown later in the round, but Sean stuffs it, delivers some damage, and temporarily turns Charles into Christ the Redeemer. Sean stuns him one more time in round 2, but with time running out, Charles lands another takedown and goes for his super effective heel hook. Sean is tired, but they just end up scissoring their way into the 3rd round, with Sean up 2 rounds to none. Charles opens up round 3 with a front kick, but Sean responds with the smallest punch ever that reopens Charles' wound, and then proceeds to punch Charles in the back of the head. Herb standing right there, but saw nothing. Charles is close to being out of this fight, so he is desperately trying to bring this fight to the mat, even if that means getting knocked down by a big punch, aka pulling guard, and on the 3rd knockdown in a row, Sean finally bites. Charles is now desperate enough that he tries something other than a heel hook. He goes for 3 separate submissions, but every one of them fails, and they are going to championship rounds. Somehow the doctor once again clears Charles to keep on fighting, and to no surprise, Charles gets knocked down from the first punch that lands, and he is going to wait for Sean to join him. Sean is trying his best to resist the urge to follow him to the mat, but the man can't help himself. He finally gives in and goes down on the Brazilian. Charles goes for an armbar, but it's no good. Sean is too strong for that. So off his back, he goes for the triangle. He gets it set up pretty well. He might have it, but Sean Rampage Strickland is the best fighter of all time. He slams him on the mat to get out of it. The fight stays on the mat for the rest of the 4th round, but Sean is in his head. He is unsubmittable, and Charles is just lucky the doctor hasn't stepped in yet. Round 5 is underway, and there doesn't seem to be a way Charles can win this fight. Sean instantly knocks him down. He goes for the finish, but hesitates. I guess he just isn't satisfied yet. Later on, Charles takes him down, but I swear Sean just wants to prove a point. He takes his back, he gets to full mount, and just starts wailing on him. Herb Dean steps in to end the fight, but Sean doesn't stop punching. They have to take the camera off this. That was just brutal. Charles should have never knocked out Izzy. He did not deserve this type of humiliation, but nonetheless, that was a great run by him. And I don't really understand how this happened, but Sean Strickland has just won the pound-for-pound UFC tournament. He walked right through Alex Pereira, Islam Makhachev, Yuri Prohaska, and now Charles Oliveira. And he barely even bled throughout all of those fights. I don't know. Maybe his character is buff in the USA, but I swear I was not pulling any favors for this guy. He is simply just too good. But thank you guys for watching. Feel free to subscribe. Once we hit 1 million, I'm gonna go destroy all the whales Mr. Beast created in Africa. Place your bets on who's winning World War III in the comment section below. Personally, I think we should make an early statement by nuking Canada. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one.